Welcome to Curiosity Zone. In today's video, we will be discussing the fearless Chechen leader's stance on the war in Ukraine. Chechen leader Ramzan Kadyrov says his three sons, aged 14, 15 and 16, will soon travel to the Ukraine front line to fight with Russian forces. Kadyrov is a strong ally of Vladimir Putin, although he has recently criticized Russian military leadership. On social media, he wrote that a father should teach his sons how to protect their family, people and fatherland. Russia has signed a UN treaty aimed at preventing children under the age of 18 from taking direct part in hostilities. Using children under the age of 15 to participate in hostilities is considered a war crime by the International Criminal Court. However, Russia does not recognize its jurisdiction. In a long post on the Telegram messaging app, Kadyrov said his sons' military training began when they were much younger, and the time had come for them to experience a real battle. He also took aim at those empty-worded people who claimed the Chechen leaders' loved ones were not taking part in the military operation in Ukraine. The post was accompanied by a slickly produced video of his sons firing various weapons at a training ground. Chechen forces in Ukraine have been mocked by some for appearing to focus more on uploading glossy videos to social media than on taking part in frontline battles. Kadyrov has ruled the Southern Russian Republic since 2007, when he was named the region's president by Vladimir Putin. It has been a period of relative stability in Chechnya, which fought unsuccessfully for independence for a decade, but Kadyrov has been criticized for ruling with an iron fist, and allowing human rights violations to flourish. Kadyrov is a fierce supporter of Vladimir Putin, and Chechen forces have been fighting in Ukraine since the start of the war. However, after recent military setbacks in the Kharkiv and Donetsk regions, he criticized Russia's military leadership, describing one commander as a mediocrity, and bemoaning a lack of basic logistics. He also called for Russia to take more drastic measures against Ukraine, including the use of a tactical nuclear weapon. The Kremlin responded that decisions like that should not be made emotionally. Kadyrov's criticism was in response to the retreat of Russian forces from the Ukrainian town of Lyman in Donetsk region, a major strategic setback for Moscow. Capturing the town is important for Ukrainian forces, because it can be used as a foothold to reach further into Russian-held parts of Ukraine. It was also being used by Russia as a logistics hub. The defeat in Lyman was also symbolic, as it happened just a day after a grand signing ceremony to annex 4 occupied regions of Ukraine, including Donetsk, where Lyman is situated. Donetsk, Luhansk, Zaporizhzhia and Kherson regions all held so-called referendums on joining Russia last month, which were dismissed as a sham by Ukraine and its Western allies. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said Ukrainian troops had also recaptured some territory in the Kherson region. Its Russian-installed head, Vladimir Saldo, described the situation there as tense, and admitted Ukrainian forces had made breakthroughs. None of the 4 regions newly claimed by Russia are completely under Russian control, raising the question of how annexation will work, particularly in Ukrainian-controlled territory. The Kremlin says it will consult with residents of Zaporizhzhia and Kherson regions over where the borders should lie, suggesting that Russia may decide not to lay claim to the entire regions. In Luhansk and Donetsk the situation is different. Just before the war began, Mr. Putin recognized the whole of those regions as independent republics, which have now, as Moscow sees it, voted to join Russia. Chechen leader Ramzan Kadyrov is one of the most powerful and most feared men in Russia. For more than a decade the Kremlin has relied on him to maintain order in Chechnya, the Russian North Caucasus Republic he has ruled like a personal fiefdom. Human rights groups have accused him of a string of abuses, including the forced disappearance of opponents, torture and the persecution of homosexuals. Critics have linked Ramzan Kadyrov to several assassinations, some of them in Europe, but he denies involvement. In 2015 he praised a Chechen security officer charged over the Moscow killing of Boris Nemtsov, who had been one of President Vladimir Putin's most prominent critics. Mr. Kadyrov said Tsar Dadayev, a Russian Interior Ministry officer, was sincerely devoted to Russia, ready to give his life for the motherland. In 2017 Dadayev and 4 others were jailed for the murder. A day after having praised Dadayev in 2015, Mr. Kadyrov received a top award from President Putin. He was given the Order of Honor for work achievements, strenuous social activities and long conscientious service. In February, thousands of people marched through Moscow to honor Nemtsov, 5 years after he was assassinated. Mr. Kadyrov has voiced strong support for the pro-Putin rebels in eastern Ukraine and for Russia's annexation of Crimea. He is on the EU and US sanctions lists, which target many close associates of President Putin. Earlier in May, Facebook blocked his Instagram account, citing the US sanctions. He had more than 1.5 million followers on Instagram. His Facebook account was blocked in 2017. Like Mr. Putin, Ramzan Kadyrov adopts a macho image. He likes to be filmed posing with guns, fraternizing with the military and supporting martial arts contests. His alliance with Mr. Putin goes back a long way. In 2007, Mr. Putin appointed him Chechen president. His father, Ahmed, who was elected president in a disputed vote in 2003, was assassinated a few months later in a bomb blast. Ramzan Kadyrov already had a powerful, much-feared private militia called the Kadyrovsty. Human rights groups accuse them of torture, kidnappings and assassinations in Chechnya, a mainly Muslim republic left devastated by war in the 1990s. He had not always backed the Moscow leadership. In the early 1990s, he and his father joined the rebels fighting Russian forces in the First War for Independence. They switched sides at the start of the Second Chechen War in 1999. His ruthless methods against armed Islamists were useful for Russia as it tried to pacify the whole North Caucasus region, argues the BBC's Murad Battle-Shishani, a Chechen political analyst. Islamist militancy became more acute in republics near Chechnya just as Mr. Putin was trying to consolidate his presidency in Moscow. Those who criticize official shortcomings in Chechnya are sometimes paraded humiliatingly on local state-controlled TV. This month, some doctors who complained about a lack of protective kit in the coronavirus crisis were shown later confessing that they had been mistaken. In 2018, the BBC's Steve Rosenberg questioned Mr. Kadyrov about the accusations of human rights abuses leveled at him. He answered scornfully, "The dog barks, but the caravan moves on. People who write these things about us, I don't even consider them people." Mr. Kadyrov is feared and revered in Russia and the Caucasus because of his allegiance to President Vladimir Putin and some inner circle in Kremlin. Mr. Kadyrov continued his late father's successful work in co-opting Chechnya's main Sufi Muslim brotherhood, the Kadyrya. The brotherhood had always been hostile to Russia, but for the first time in history it had been turned into an ally against Islamists, according to Shishani. Mr. Kadyrov developed a direct relationship with the Kremlin, bypassing Russia's bureaucratic state institutions, another convenient arrangement for both sides. It paid off for Mr. Kadyrov, as Russia funded the reconstruction of infrastructure in Chechnya, including new roads and a giant mosque in the republic's capital, Grozny. Such projects are good public relations for Mr. Kadyrov, but do little to create much-needed local jobs, Shishani says. If you enjoyed our video, kindly like, share and subscribe to our channel for more curiosity videos. Thank you for watching.